Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to be with you today again for our Talk About It Tuesday series, where we talk about issues in our community, our hopes for our communities, and introduce some of the amazing people who are working in service of everyday people and our needs. I am Brittany Ramos Taberos. I use she pronouns for anyone who does not know me. And I am an organizer, a veteran, and I'm running to fight for New York 11 in Congress in these upcoming 2022 elections. I am excited to say that you might be able to hear that I'm losing my voice. And so I am going to not subject you to my voice too much today. But luckily, we have an incredible guest who I am excited to learn from and listen to her story alongside you. Reverend Antoinnette, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here and excited to be on this wonderful platform.
Awesome. We're excited to have you. So we got to meet because we became aware of some incredible work that you've been doing in the community for years with the Central Family Life Center. And we're going to talk more about that later. But first, on this show, we always love to take time for folks to get to know each other as humans. So tell us a little bit about what your family was like. How did you come to get to know Staten Island, and just a little bit about yourself as a person?
Well, sure. I am a Southern girl. Some Staten Islanders will say I'm not a native Staten Islander, but I've been here 40 years. I was born in Woodbine, Georgia, a town about yay big, and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. I came here when I was 21 years old, but I came every summer growing up. Every summer I would come here because children, I don't know if you know the tradition, but northern children would go down south and southern children would come up north. So my cousins got out of school after I did. So I would come up here, wait for them to get out of school, and then we would all go back down south. And so those summers, I grew to love New York, Staten Island. And every summer when I came back to Jacksonville, I swore I was a northerner. I learned the culture, I learned the dances, I learned the moves, I learned the music. And you couldn't tell me when I went back to Jacksonville, I wasn't a northerner, The pizza, the snow cones, I had the lingo and everything down pat. And so I said, when I grow up, I'm going to go to Staten Island to live. My mother didn't raise me. She was in Staten Island. So that was the purpose of the trip every summer. So when I became 21, I did do some schooling here in Staten Island. And I went through some trials and tribulations. But at 21, I decided that I would come here permanently. And I met my then husband, love story. We ended up having a love child. And we married and had a wonderful son, and I stayed here, and that's where I landed. So my son is now 39, and this is where I am.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I also can't believe you have a son that's 39, because
Yes.
you're so vibrant, you have so much energy, and you just exude a kind of youthfulness, actually. And so beyond just appearances, just the energy you give off.
Thank you so much. I am a civil rights baby. In fact, I was raised during the whole civil rights movement, being on the bus on the back, Woolworths, sitting in the back, learning about going. My grandmother loved for us to shop for new dresses for Sunday. And I went through that whole experience, and not, growing up understanding that why I could not try on mini dresses for Sunday, because the lady in the shop would say, well, why you can't try on mini dresses, because I was colored. So you couldn't. So I grew up during that whole time. Martin Luther King, I was 8 years old when he was murdered. So thank you that you say that. I call it the glory of the Lord, because my faith is very important to me, and I attribute that he has kept me through all my trials and tribulations, that he has kept me. But I say all glory to God that I don't look like what I've been through. But
Yeah.
yes, my one and only son is 39 years old.
That's so beautifully put.
Yes.
I appreciate you sharing that. And, it seems like a good moment. I didn't plan to bring this up, but as you say that, I'm thinking about, several of my mentors this week have really been deeply mourning the passing or homegoing of Bob Moses, who was an instrumental organizer with SNCC during that civil rights era. And I didn't get a chance to know Bob, but what I know him by his work, in the sense that maybe many of the people who have mentored me in my work and movement, just have such beautiful stories to share about him. And I think that sometimes, because of the struggles that our communities and our families go through, we don't always get the opportunity to really have a kind of continuous legacy of honoring elders,
Mm-hmm.
and taking the time to deeply understand the experiences of our elders, and also understand how recent so many of those experiences really were, right?
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So thank you for sharing that. And my love and solidarity to everyone who is grieving that right now. And I think, you mentioned how important your faith is to you, and you just became officially ordained, isn't that right?
Yes, yes. In fact,
Congratulations.
today is our month anniversary. So I was the female, and there's three other wonderful gentlemen. And I just told them today is our anniversary.
Wow.
We've been ordained a month. I was licensed in 2007 and ordained officially June the 27th. So I'm still a newbie at being ordained. Yes.
Oh, congratulations. That's
Thank you
so
so much.
exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what was it that led you to take that path to decide, I want to officially kind of take on that mantle and calling?
Of ministry.
Hmm.
I was like Moses and Jonah. I did not want to be a minister.
Really?
I um when I was called to ministry, Reverend Dr. Carolina came to the church, and he touched me and he said, "All right, preacher." And I turned around and I was like, who is he talking to? It wasn't that other people had not identified it, and it wasn't that I had had dreams, but just like Moses, I said, one who has a stammering tongue, who are you talking to? Just as God has told Moses that you would lead the people, I said, me, who is not of elegant speaking, who are you talking to? But I've always had a love for people, because being a minister is servant. You serve God's people, and you serve it, guiding through the word of God. And you love God's people no matter whether they are loving you back, and you are compassionate and you love them according to the word of God. But as far as it's more than just standing in the pulpit on Sunday.
Hmm.
And I did not think that I was capable of doing that. And so I studied, and the reading of the word, and I've had dreams and whatnot, but I still kicked and screamed and did not want to. I didn't want to get licensed when I was preparing to be licensed in 2007. My son was locked up at the time, and I tried to use that as a delay tactic. And Pastor Carolina was like, "No, we're not going to do this. You're going to be licensed." And I was licensed. And the next day after being licensed, I had to go to the 120 precinct and help and minister to a mother whose son was locked up.
Wow.
And so I knew that my calling was bigger than me.
Hmm.
And so I've been doing the work. And then Pastor Carolina, when he texted me and he said, "You're going to be among these gentlemen that are going to be ordained because you're doing the work," I broke down and cried, because I was like, I don't feel worthy. And it's not, God does not call you because you're prepared. He calls you because you're willing to be prepared.
Yeah.
And so I realized that I'm grateful because of the calling. And I realize it's not because of nothing great in me, other than He is great in me. So
Yeah.
I'm just very grateful and humbled by the fact that I am now ordained.
Wow. Congratulations. What a powerful
So much.
story and testimony.
Yes,
Um,
yes. And my son is not no longer locked up. He
mhm,
is now working for City Bikes. He's an
mhm.
amazing young man. He has a wife, excuse me, a wife. He married a young lady with two sons. They have two children. He's a hard worker. He's an amazing husband. He loves his mom, by the way. His wife
That's
tells me
important.
that I have spoiled him, and I think that he spoils me.
Oh,
He is strong. He's resilient because of what he's went through. Because I raised him as a single mom.
mhm.
He has a powerful testimony as well,
Well,
because when you go through certain things, as a young African American man, you sometimes don't reveal everything. And he saw a lot, and he doesn't, African American men don't reveal a lot. We as women, we're very emotional, and we talk a lot and we reveal a lot, but our men, they don't talk.
mhm.
And I think that's what a lot is going on. And I know we're not talking about gun violence, but I
No,
think
we
that's
are.
what,
I mean, it's
yeah,
connected to your work. Yeah. And
yeah,
it's
but
an
I
issue
think
in
that's
our
what
community.
is going on with a lot of the young men that are out there committing this gun violence, is that they don't talk, they don't feel free to talk about what's going on, the trauma that is going on. And if they don't have a way of out, and they don't have a way of releasing that trauma,
Mhm.
then it can manifest in different ways.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think that that's really important. And so, your son's experience, having to deal with the trauma. I mean, I've come to think about incarceration itself as a trauma
Yes.
that is enacted on many of our families and community members. And so, with your son going through that experience, I can only imagine that that would be incredibly painful as a mother.
Hmm.
And I'm curious how you feel like that impacted or didn't impact the work that you've gotten involved in with Central Family Life Center and True to Life.
It impacted me a great deal.
Mhm.
I've written a book, in fact, called A Mother's Heart,
Oh,
because
I didn't know you wrote a book.
yes, I have a book
Look at
called A
your
Mother's
book.
Heart. Because a lot of people don't understand that when a mother goes through that experience, it's through another lens. A mother goes through that experience, and they still have to function. They
Yeah.
still have to work. They still have to, function. And when a mother, for example, when a mother has a child that is sick, there's covered dishes that are brought to them, and there's people that want to. They have compassion for them.
Right.
But a mother who has a child that is incarcerated, there is no compassion for them. There's nobody coming to them with covered dishes. There's nobody bringing them ice cream. There's nobody saying, hey, you want to go to the movies? Nobody wants to know what, when a mother has gone to visit a sick child, there's a
Mhm.
call going, oh, how was your visit to the hospital? But when a mother goes upstate to visit their child, nobody's calling them to ask them how was their visit. Nobody wants to know, how was the visit. They don't care.
Right.
But that mother still goes through that and still has to function, and then the next day has to possibly go to work
Mhm.
or go to church
Yeah.
or function. Nobody cares about that. So it impacted my work because you see the community in a different lens.
Mhm.
So when you see community members without, you wonder, okay, so they don't have groceries because why? There's different reasons why they don't have groceries. Or there's different reason why that mother is disheveled. Or there's different reasons why that mother might not have something simple as laundry detergent. When someone is not in that community, they might not understand why. Oh, why don't they have laundry detergent? It's $1. Well, maybe they don't have $1, or maybe they don't have $5. I
Mhm.
don't understand why they don't have money to get on the bus. Well, maybe that's all they had. Because if you have somebody incarcerated, and that's not everybody's story, but say if they had somebody incarcerated and they've had to send a package, so
Mhm.
then they have to send a package, and they also have to maintain their bills. So something is going to lack.
Yeah.
So which one is it?
Right.
So something's going to lack. And then you say, well, they need to get therapy. With what money?
And
Or
to,
they,
at what time? Yeah.
and what time? Or
Yeah.
they need to take care of themselves. Or they need to get fresh vegetables. With what money? Or
Mm.
they need to stop eating all that McDonald's. Well, McDonald's is $1 for French fries and $1 for hamburgers, while a salad is $9.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be able to um, advocate for fresh vegetables and fresh fruits in the neighborhoods of Black and Brown communities. Why is it more easier to get French fries and fried chicken and hamburgers in Black and Brown communities versus there's things that come out of Whole Food? Why is there nothing like a Whole Food in the Black and Brown communities? Why can't I go in a bodega and get a reefer joint? I don't know what they call them nowadays. It's easier to get a reefer joint than it is to get an avocado.
Yeah.
This is the problem. It's yes, our community is suffering from COVID because they can't build their immune systems up. You're talking about, oh, it's easier. You should be a vegan. Well, to be a vegan, you need to have access to beans and grains and things like that. Well, not in our community do we have that. So the work that we do at the Life Center is to make sure that the seniors have a way of enjoying themselves, that the young people have a way of getting job training, that that we're able to go to the market and bring the fresh fruits and vegetables to the community by way of health bugs because they don't have access to this. We have wraparound services. It's like a way of bringing everything that's needed to one place.
Right.
And I'm very passionate about that because Dr. Carolina is passionate about that. And everybody that works there is very passionate about the needs of the community, both in Stapleton and Park Hill and in Manus Harbor. And if you'll notice that the two projects are very in different locations have different things. So the projects in Stapleton, if you look at them, right, they look like a penitentiary.
Yep.
What access do they have in Stapleton? Where's the laundromat? Where's the supermarket? Where's the clinics? Where's the shopping area?
Yeah.
Manus Harbor. The project's a little different, right? And they have access to a shopping area. They have access to a gym. They have access to a shopping area. So look at it. We just celebrated 365 days of no shootings in Manus Harbor. There's more things to do in Manus Harbor, right? There's less things to do to occupy the mind, the times in Stapleton and Park Hill.
Yeah.
So if I want to go work out, where do I go work out for $10 in Stapleton? Where do I go? If I want to go just walk around and shop, where do I go in Stapleton to do that? If I want to go and get some good food, where do I do that in Stapleton and Park Hill? Where do I go do that? If I want to have different choices of washing my clothes, where do I do that? If I want to go buy a car at a reasonable price, where do I do that in Stapleton and Park Hill versus Manus Harbor? So it's frustrating.
Yeah.
I want to go sit outside in the area that I live, I take a walk and stretch my legs. All I see is decrepity. Versus if I want to walk around in Manus Harbor, I can get a different view of my life in Manus Harbor. I can take a good walk. I can almost walk to Port Richmond and get me an iced tea, right? And that's a good walk. How far do I have to walk to see a change of scenery in Stapleton?
Yeah.
It changes your mindset when you can get a change of scenery. And it's an emotional change.
Yeah. And I think like some of that change has to do with hopefulness too. I think when I think about spaces I've been in, I just think about like how often I, looking around at people and just being like, people are like, we're forgotten. We're seen as not worth any kind of anything nice, any investment, right? Anything. And that you start to internalize that I'm worthless, so what? Nothing matters, I'm about to go here or there, whatever. Like, I don't know, it just becomes this kind of like a kind of hardness that I think sometimes people think of as hatefulness, but it's hopelessness. And that has not just that, right? I'm not trying to say that that's the only problem, but I mean, it makes sense. It has a connection to conditions. I think sometimes we're treated as if that is a character flaw.
Right. Like it's our fault.
Right. We're blamed for our own poverty, for our own struggles, right? All these things, and for our own hopelessness. And yet that completely erases the conditions that foster that. And so, you know, I mean, I think what you surely are preaching. I can see why Dr. pushed you. I think it's so important what you're saying, and for people to hear it and understand these issues in a more holistic way. You know, because I know that one of the things that people around the, you know, I've knocked a lot of doors throughout Staten Island, and people are very concerned about crime and gun violence. And I understand that. And yet I think so often we don't talk about all of these underlying root causes and drivers, right? That, like, by the time, for me, it's not about being against the police. It's just that by the time the police have to get involved, we've already failed as a society to a degree.
Right.
We should be thinking about, like, how do we prevent all of these things from happening in the first place before we even have to be in those scenarios, right?
Exactly.
And that requires investment. You know, one of my favorite quotes is that, you know, the communities are the safest are not those with the most police or guns. It's those with the most resources.
Exactly. Exactly. They have the most resources.
Yeah.
Is that I'm going to backtrack a bit. When we talk about the police and we, you know, oh, they're this and that, it's like, because we don't have the resources, so we use the police for the resources that we don't have.
Right.
So yes, there's a heavy presence of the police in our neighborhoods, but because we use them for resources that we don't have.
Right.
While other neighborhoods have the resources, so they don't have to call the police for the resources because they have the resources.
Right.
So they don't have to call the police for mental health. They don't have to call the police to get the cat out of the tree. They don't have to call the police for everything because they have the resources. We don't have the resources. So every time you look around, we calling the police. Why? We calling them for everything. And so they, of course, they have an attitude because we have to look at them in a different, we need to recondition our mind and start looking them as people with blue uniforms on. And they're like, if we turn our minds and put ourselves in their place and say, okay, they're calling me again. This neighborhood is calling me again to get the cat out of the tree.
I know.
Again. So of course they got an attitude. And of course they're going to treat us a certain way. Yeah. Is it right? No. It's not right. But this is the attitude that they're going to give us until we get the resources. And part of the reason we don't have it is because we're not at the table. We are not at the table when we need to be at the table.
Yeah.
Stop cowering at the table. And I can go on and on about this. When things need to happen, Councilwoman Rose and different elected officials will call meetings and say, you know, this is happening, log on, put your voice to this. 10 people there, 5 people there.
Right.
But you rah. When something bad happens, why are you not at the table? Yeah. We need to be at the table, but on the other side of the island, when things are happening, it's packed out. Yeah. The voices are heard. We need to have a voice. Like I said, I grew up in civil rights. We didn't have social media. We didn't have Zoom. We didn't have these different ways of, we had bullhorns and streets, and it was packed out. How else had we made it so that we were able to sit at the front of the bus? We shut the bus system down. Yeah. That's how we made change.
Organizing.
Goods. That's how we did things.
Right.
We got together and organized. and it did work.
Right.
We didn't sit back and hold our hands and complain, because complaining does not get the work done. My pastor has a wonderful saying. He always says, many hands make light work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. Many hands make light work.
Mm-hmm.
And it still holds the same for today.
Yeah. And I think what I want to also highlight in what you're saying is not, shaming people for their dissatisfaction, right? On one hand,
Right.
that those complaints are valid, and that the uprisings that we have in response to horrible things happening need to happen, right? People need to raise their voices in those moments, but we can't stop in those moments, right? Question is, and also on the police side, right? It's not that you're saying, or what I hear you saying, and from our previous conversations, I understand about your perspective is that, it's not to say that there doesn't need to be real accountability for behaviors, for, attitudes that people have, blah, 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 blah. There does need to be accountability. But the point of all of this is, how do we get out of this cycle, right? This cycle of violence and trauma that then reinforces the violence and the dissatisfaction, and and it's just a breakdown on all sides. And so for me, that's what you're speaking to, right? Is about, how do we actually get out of this problem? And the answer is that I think we have to be proactive. We have to be proactive in organizing and also showing up for our communities. And that's, and addressing these issues before they become issues, right? The thing about resources is not just about the resources to call a mental health professional instead of the police, but the resources when people are traumatized, to have them be seeing mental health professionals all that time.
Right.
So that they don't even get to the place where it becomes a potentially violent situation or a breakdown, right?
Right.
And so
identify it and stop calling it what it's not. Like, you see Uncle Joe or Joe on the block, and you go, oh, that's just who they are. No. How about you say, well, Joe, how you feeling today? You seem a little blue today. Do you need a little help today? Can I refer you to somebody, or can somebody come talk to you? And stop walking over Joe and just saying, oh, that's just how Joe is. And then when Joe commits suicide, oh, I'm so sorry. But you had a way of just giving Joe. Now you can't take him by the hand, but you can just give him a little referrals, or check in with them, or it doesn't take much to just say, you don't seem right today. You all right? Yeah. You just a check in. We used to check in with each other. Mm-hmm. Everybody's stepping over everybody, trying to get to, where you going so fast? Mm-hmm. We're so busy going, where you going? We're so busy going nowhere. Mm-hmm. And we're stepping over each other, but we're going nowhere. Mm-hmm. Closing our eyes to the needs of each other. Mm-hmm. You got a freezer full of food, and your neighbor ain't got nothing. Mm-hmm. But you're talking about your neighbor. Share with your neighbor. You got 4 loaves of bread in your freezer. Why? And your neighbor has nothing. Mm-hmm. Share with your neighbor and stop talking about them. Yeah. That's what we have to get back to, because your neighbor doesn't have none. So that causes a trickle effect of some trauma. Yeah. So the neighbor don't have no bread. The children don't have no bread. The children are going to school hungry. The children can't learn. The children are failing school. The children are flunking out of school. The children decide that they're going to get in a gang. It is a trickle effect, all from the fact that they don't have no food.
Yeah, tell it. That's right. And, and at the end of the day, it's also, it's up to us as individuals to help, but also we need leaders that are going to, these are systemic issues, right? We need, we need more programs. One of the things we talked about when we talked the other day was just the idea, why doesn't every housing authority building have a grocery store with fresh produce and healthy food in the lobby, and access to healthcare, right? We have these deserts in different places, across the island, of access to food, access to healthcare. So you're having to drive all across the island just to access affordable healthcare, if you can find any at all,
Right.
And so, these are all things that create the conditions that we're seeing, right? And the results that we're seeing. And so, Central Family Life Center and True to Life, tell everybody a little bit about some of the kind of what is the work that you all do, and kind of when you say wraparound services, what does that mean? Kind of in detail, give some examples for folks who might not know.
Absolutely. The awesome, wonderful work that we do. So Central Family Life Center is the largest minority-ran community-based organization centered in the hub of Stapleton, 59 Wright Street. So we have wraparound services. And when I say that, True to Life is the Cure Violence Initiative that is the only one on Staten Island. It is one of 23 sites in New York City. And when I say wraparound services, say I'll give you a picture because I like to paint pictures, right? A young person is referred to True to Life and say that they don't have a high school diploma. So we have a program where they can get a high school diploma. Say they have some work experience, but they need a resume. We have a young person there, a wonderful young man by the name of Tyler. They can make say that the person said, yeah, I worked at Dollar Tree. Yeah, I worked at Amazon. Yeah, I worked down the block. Yeah, I have a couple of skills here. By the time he tells Tyler, it's like a soup. And by the time he tells Tyler what he's done, it'll be a stew and it'll be a wonderful resume. And he's put those ingredients together and it becomes a wonderful stew of a resume. And the young person can go out and get a job. And he will also not only do the resume, but he'll also coach it on interview skills, because a lot of these young people are not out there just doing violence because they want to. A lot of them are because they don't have any direction. They don't have any, it's like, I need work. I need some direction and I need a mindset. We have a wonderful gentleman by the name of Reverend Dale Smith. He does anger management. That's another service. So they work on different mindsets. Also, the gentleman in True to Life, they work on different ways of mentoring and violent interruptions and telling them that the way that you're thinking is not the rewiring their emotions, because these young people are familiar with the team, because the way the system works, the Cure Violence system works, is that the team used to be out there doing the violence, but now they're hired and trained by the city. And that's why they're called credible messengers. See, I couldn't be a violent interrupter because I've never been out there doing violence. So if I'm out there telling a teen stop committing violence, they'd be like, "Yeah, right, miss. I never seen you commit violence. Do you know what a gun is? Do you know what a 45 is? Do you know?" But if Mike Perry tells them to put a gun down, they know Mike Perry. They know Malcolm Penn. They know them. So they use credible messengers to be in this initiative to tell the young people that the new gangster is a peace person, a person of peace. And so these are some of the wraparound services. They've gotten OSHA training where they've gone on to be flaggers and different people that work on construction and different things. We have Youth Build Impact where they get their GED, and some of those youth actually work for our test and trace program. We have programs for the seniors where during the pandemic, as you know, in order to sign up for vaccines and everything, you had to have technical skills. Well, we have tech savvy seniors. Well, now the seniors are learning how to turn on the computers and do different things. They're also learning how to exercise in their chairs and different things. We also have Taekwondo, which is not about just fighting, but discipline. We have a Saturday Academy. We have after school, which is teaching, helping these kids not just with their homework, but helping them with discipline. We give out over 300 to 400 Thanksgiving baskets every Thanksgiving. And that didn't stop because of COVID. because hunger doesn't stop because of a virus.
Right.
The same thing for Christmas. We gave out toys for Christmas, and we do games and crafts and different things for the community. And
Mm,
we usually did 500, but because of COVID, we had to cut that down.
mm.
This is just some of the things that we do at the Life Center, and this is each year we do this.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. And what would you say, if you could wave a magic wand, and either expand on something you already do or add to it, right? Like I think in thinking about how can leaders or people who have resources or people who have decision-making authority over resources support work like this. Because this is the work that really, really
Mhm.
decreases violence in our communities, right? This is what it takes.
Right.
We actually want safe communities. Investing in these kinds of programs is what it actually takes, right? So if you had a magic wand, what is something that you would either add if you had the resources for it, or what would you really love to see expanded if you had the resources for it?
I would, if we had a magic wand, I would love another building,
Mm-hmm.
expansion. We have our test and trace program. So I
Mm-hmm.
would, a whole office for them because they're doing great work during this COVID, and more money for our cure violence
Yeah.
because we have technically target area is parts of Stapleton and Park Hill and Manus Harbor, the housing projects in Manus Harbor, but they
Mm-hmm.
respond to New Brighton, they respond to West Brighton, they respond to even South Beach,
Yeah.
but it's 22 employees. That's they need more money so they can hire more staff, right?
Uh-huh.
So more money to for expansion and a hub over in Manus Harbor because they don't have like a real hub. They all come out of the Stapleton building, so that would be great. We also have, I didn't mention that they have an RV,
Mm-hmm.
so they do real services out of the RV.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really, really cool. They're doing a recording studio and they're going to do mental services out of that. We
Mm-hmm.
also, I didn't mention that we have, because we have so many wonderful services, we have on site a mental health professional, Dr. Dodd. So
Mm-hmm.
that's part of our wraparound services. When someone comes that has issues, we have someone right away that we can refer them to. We also have free, I said free legal aid.
Wow.
Yeah, we have free legal aid. It happens once a month. So anyone that has a need for legal services, we have free legal aid, which is very, very important when you have legal issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, because sometimes you'll have an issue that's not very complicated, but the
Hmm.
process of trying to figure out what attorney to see, and it can, is
Yes.
overwhelming, and it can be so expensive just for a consultation for things
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes. And so that's amazing. Um, are there ways that community members or volunteers can get involved and can support some of the services and work that you all are doing? Or what's the best?
Absolutely. We're always looking for volunteers.
Okay.
They can call the Central Family Life Center, which the number is 718
Mhm.
273 8414, and talk to one of those lovely ladies at the front desk and let them know that they would like to volunteer and what in what capacity would they like to volunteer.
Okay.
Mhm.
What are some of the options for volunteering?
They can volunteer with the seniors. The
Mhm.
seniors are in the building Tuesdays and Thursdays,
Okay.
10 to 2.
Mhm.
They can volunteer with the Youth Bill
Mhm.
Impact, which is up at 117 Wright Street.
Mhm.
They can contact True to Life, which now is running the youth program, the Vibe Youth
Mhm.
Program. So that is a very vibrant program with young people because, last year with COVID, they weren't able to be in house in person. So that's very important. I believe they have about 20 young people in that youth program,
Mhm.
teaching them how to conduct themselves, how to communicate. the young lady Amber and Rachel and Mike Perry. They're teaching young people how to communicate business wise. Like when you're having a conversation, put your phone down. Just simple things, because now this generation is so attached to their phone that they don't realize that while you're in a meeting, you need to put your phone down. Just
Yeah.
simple things like that.
Right.
So they can volunteer with that. They can volunteer with Taekwondo, after school program when school starts again. Because bilingual is very important, because our community is the after school children that come are bilingual.
Mm.
They are such little sweeties, I tell you, and so loving. I,
Aw.
I don't speak Spanish, but they it doesn't seem to bother them. They just I love them and they love me.
Kids, that's so sweet. Kids are so adaptable.
They really are. They really are. They come to me, excuse me, miss. Excuse me, miss. I just love them. I love their little voices.
Oh, well, I
Yeah.
can't wait to come by sometime soon and get to know
Yes,
and
yes,
volunteer
yes, yes.
myself. I definitely encourage others to check it out and do the same.
Yes.
And give me that number one more time. I'm going to put it in the comments, 718.
273
Okay.
8414. And know that our executive director is the Reverend Dr. Demetrius S. Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, so there's that phone number. And is there a website that folks can go to check out
Yes,
some of the
yes,
stuff
it
that
is centralfamilylifecenter.org.
Okay, familylifecenter.org. All right. We've put that in the chat for anyone who wants to check out that website or call that phone number. You can always reference it here, whether you're joining us live today or catching the recording in the future, which will live on all of our social media. So you can always, for anyone who wants to share this with others who you think might be interested, you can find shareable videos here, on whatever platform you're currently watching it on, obviously. But for awareness, it's on Facebook, our Twitter, as well as our YouTube. So make sure to check that out and share it with your friends and family. Share it on your social media. Help us spread the word, because this is a critical organization, and this is critical work that's happening in our communities. And I think sometimes it's really easy to be so focused on what we don't have, that we forget to really celebrate and focus and invest in what we do have. And so I think that this is an opportunity to focus on a bright spot.
Yes,
And my dad loves to say, what you focus on grows, right?
I love it. I love it. Yes. He must be a gardener.
I don't think I've ever actually seen him garden, but he's an entrepreneur.
I love it. I love it.
He always is working on some business or some hustle. And grew up, in church, and is a man of faith as well. And
I love it.
Yeah. And I think really raised me to have an attitude around, it's not that we deny that there are these problems, right? But also we can't forget to focus on what we want to see grow.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. And I think this is an opportunity. Okay. Well, Reverend Antoinnette, I am in awe of you since the very first time we chatted. I'm so excited to come volunteer myself. And I'm so grateful to you, not just for, coming on the show and joining us and your support, but for all that you do in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I just thank you for having these Tuesday chats, and I thank you for all the great work that you are going to do and continuing to do. And I can't wait to see what wonderful things that you are going to do in the future. And I want you to get your voice back.
Yes, I'm about to go have some tea, like you told me at the beginning.
Yes, with honey.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes, and rest your voice.
Yes. Is there anything else that you didn't get to share that you want to make sure to share before we wrap up?
I put the website on in the chat. I don't know if it'll go live. Yes, wonderful. I just want others to check out the website and just always stay conscious of others that are in these communities, that they need a lot more compassion and a lot more understanding. That the COVID has raised a lot of awareness of health disparities in the Black and Brown communities. And it's not just about getting vaccinated. Yes, you should get vaccinated. But even if you don't get vaccinated, take care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit. Encourage each other to self care. Do some self care. Check on your neighbors. Check on your seniors. Just don't just be so selfish and think about yourself. COVID has raised a lot of awareness that there are a lot of people that are in need of care and in need of so much other awareness. And so I think that we need to not just be so singular thinking during these times, that we really need to think about our neighbors again and check on each other. Let's check on each other, because with this being by ourselves, we just saw in the news that wonderful gymnast, she's pulled out of things because of mental issues. And we're talking about a celebrity, a wonderful young lady that has all of these abilities, and because of mental anguish, she's pulled out of pulled out of the games. And if she has mental issues, imagine someone in your neighborhood, in your community, in your mosque, in your church, in your school, and on your job, they're suffering. COVID has raised its ugly head and it's shown a lot. So check on each other. Let's check on each other. Also, check on the Central Family Life Center. We're doing a lot of wonderful things. Next week, we're having a movie night. Stop by, it's free of charge. We're having everything social distance. We're doing a lot of things. If you need COVID testing, it is free of charge. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, stop by and have your COVID test. Even if you're vaccinated, you still need to be tested. I have been vaccinated since March, and I get tested every month because I'm out in the community. It's very important, and you want to do it for your seniors if you're around your seniors, your grands, and so forth. So you want to do that. Wear your mask if you're inside, even if you're vaccinated. These are just some tidbits. Try to take care of yourself, water, walk around, get from in front of the computers and stuff. Try to check in with people and don't just text. Pick up the phone and hear a voice. That's some things I just want to share.
Yeah, it's great advice and very well put. And I want to foot stomp because as you know, I was in the military. I grew up, speaking of my father, right? I've had this conversation that often, especially in Black and Brown family and in communities, sometimes we have a stigma around needing support around mental health. And yet, the conditions we're dealing with, there doesn't have to be anything wrong with you to be experiencing some mental health struggles. That we're dealing with really difficult conditions. I know my little sister was a waitress and a cosmetologist, and with COVID, she had worked so hard to get established, and then just had months and months out of work, and often felt this kind of shame of like, oh, I can't get on my own feet, I can't take care of myself. And we often internal, and she was dealing with a lot of different issues, but that's not her fault, right? It's not her fault or other people's fault that the economy shut down and your multiple jobs all evaporated overnight, or that you've experienced violence and just different things in your families or in our communities, and let alone all of the stresses of having to work so hard so often just to get by. And on top, and then COVID on top of it, right? Anyway, I'm going on, but even in, you were speaking of Simone Biles, the gymnast, and and there have been others recently at the top of their game. But also, we can't ignore the trend that these are also Black women, right? Who really damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean, she has 4 moves named after her because she's literally the only person in the game who can even do those moves.
Right.
And then the system was basically changed so that she couldn't get extra points for her abilities and all of this pressure. And I'm not saying that was her issue, right? Or that's what she's going through. I can't speak for her. But what I know is that, the pressure and the ways that those conditions affect us doesn't mean that something's wrong with you, right? If you need support.
Exactly.
So, I really appreciate your message and your reminder to us to keep taking care of ourselves and taking care of each other, because it's tough out here. And on that note, just sending everybody so much love, so much care and compassion in the midst of everything. And also, my prayer is that everyone just finds those moments of joy and really just has a chance to really relish the joy and the blessings that we do have around us. And for me, I know that showing up and supporting my neighbor can be those moments to remind me of the possibility in humanity, right? And that we can also find that joy in the midst of everything going on. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Reverend Antoinette, thank you again.
Thank you so
I will
much.
see you soon.
Yeah.
Go check out centralfamilylifecenter.org and the phone number in the comments. Share, and we will see you next Tuesday back for another live stream or sometime soon. And as always, reach out to us directly if you have any questions or you want to recommend other people. And last but not least, of course, again, I am running for Congress here in New York 11. I am not, I'm not doing this because I'm running for Congress. I'm running for Congress because we have these issues in our communities that I've experienced firsthand all my life. And I believe that we need people who have experienced what it's like to struggle, the problems that we're facing, and can bring that lived experience and commitment to the halls of power, so that we have a seat at the table in more than one way, right? And so
Yes.
If you align with that vision and with the values, then please check out our website as well. Get involved and get involved with the many people. If electoral things are not your thing, the many people like Reverend Antoinette and Reverend Carolina and the Central Family Life Center and many of the other programs that we've highlighted on this show. Thank you so much, everyone, and take good care.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.